Hi, I'm Sarah Cowgill, along with Andrew Moran, Dave Patterson, Graham Noble, and John Clark. And this is The Conservative Five, an online TV news production of Liberty Nation News. Well, here we are. After the wackiest campaign, in my memory at least, in these last days, the focus has been on swing states, as predicted. But then you had concerts in Florida, Madison Square Garden, and tongues are wagging all over the who, the what, and the why. Surrogates are all over the place, begging for votes, kissing babies, and making promises. So let's just start this conversation with what both campaigns are doing now while rounding third base and headed for home. Dave, you have the floor. Best Surrogate Ever award is yours to decide.
Well, I think what we're seeing in the 2024 campaign is unusual, strong advocacy from former national security wonks, all for Harris. But the award goes to retired Admiral William McRaven, who in his op-ed for the Wall Street Journal claims to be an enlightened but disappointed Republican voting for Harris. He sets out to school the WSJ readers in the civility of America's founding fathers. He quotes George Washington's admonition, speak not injurious words, neither in jest nor earnest, scoff at none, though they give occasion. Meanwhile, Martha missed the memo and refers to Thomas Jefferson in print as one of the most detestable of mankind. and then you have the son of Washington's vice president, John Quincy Adams. He also missed the advice, running against Andrew Jackson for president in 1824. He accuses Jackson of being a cannibal in handbills distributed during the campaign. According to Adams, Jackson, after massacring 500 Indians, ate their remains. His description was a very detailed menu. Well, with the exception, he left out the appropriate wine pairing, but Adams was elected by the House of Representatives. But Jackson won the popular vote amongst fine dining advocates, probably. But, let's not forget when it comes to political peevishness, Aaron Burr, Jefferson's VP, did kill Alexander Hamilton, first Treasury Secretary, in a duel in 1804. So there have been occasions in history where, passions have gotten fairly high.
Yeah, civility has gone out the window in a few places here and there. We've all seen it this year, for sure. Hey, Andrew, what are the last-ditch tactics that each campaign is trying to pull off? Are they even working, or are we too far gone?
Okay, I'd like to make a quick point here. What David was saying, we had a segment a couple weeks ago talking about presidents and VPs, and I had this whole bit of talking about all these different instances of administration officials talking bad about each other, and I was cut off and nobody let me speak. So Dave plagiarized me for a lot of what he said. But anyway, moving on here. So for the Harris,
did I plagiarize you with the fine dining?
I think he got a little squirmish when we were talking about cannibals. Well, you were, Dave, and wine pairing, and he got a little, like he's got that little Grinch face on right now. I mean, what's wrong, Andrew?
Now you cut him off again. Next.
Okay, I'm going to just throw it to Carl.
I thought Dave's cannibal bit was very...
Andrew, please talk.
Dave's cannibal bit was very creative. Kudos to you, Dave, for doing that.
Okay. All right. So we're talking about last-ditch tactics. Let's go one by one here. So I think for Kamala Harris, her last-ditch tactic is claiming that Trump is a member of the National Socialist German Workers' Party and a fascist. For Joe Biden, it's calling all of Trump's supporters garbage. For the media, it's combining all of the worst people in world history and comparing them to Trump. The Atlantic recently had an article, and this was the title, quote, Trump is speaking like Hitler, Stalin, and Mussolini. You know who drink water, right? Hitler. And who also drinks water, right? Trump. Oh, yeah. So this reminds me.
Similarity is eerie. Similarity is eerie.
So last night I was watching Seinfeld. I was watching on YouTube the Seinfeld channel. I saw an old clip of when George he goes to the office and he tries to zing a guy, and the guy he said the jerkster were called and they're running out of you, and then the other guy says, "How would you know? You're the best customer." And then that bothers George so much that he goes to another office in their city just to zing that guy, and then he uses some joke, and then the guy responds with an even better joke, and then George gets so frustrated and he says, "Well, I slept with your wife." And that's pretty much the last stage tactics of all these campaigns, because they've tried absolutely everything to get Trump in the polls and to lower his electoral odds.
Okay, so what is the other side doing? What is what's the Trump campaign doing to the Harris campaign?
So when it comes to the Trump campaign, it's just him being himself, calling her low IQ. She's the worst president. She's the worst vice president in history. Joe Biden's the worst president in history. It's just Trump being Trump. And people have called him Teflon Trump for a reason. That no matter what he says, no matter how violent it may be, it just works. And no matter what he does, visiting McDonald's. I mean, I saw a joke that if Trump were to hop on a garbage truck this week and claim that he's a garbage man, that would just seal the deal for him in the election following Biden's comments.
250 million people are not garbage. I can tell you who the real garbage is, but we won't say that. They shouldn't be talking. That's like deplorable for Hillary. This is the deplorable for Hillary. And I think this is worse, actually. For Joe Biden to make that statement, it's really a disgrace.
On one side, it's enjoying the momentum. I think Mark Angelides, he called it fading Kamala momentum. And then the other side is just trying to do whatever to beat the other side.
Why do I ask you to be on here, Andrew? You're killing me every time.
Wait, what the heck? Is that a comment or an insult? What the heck?
Well, that might be a little bit of... No, it's not an insult. Anyway, Clark, do these star-studded concerts really energize people to actually vote, or are they just there to hang out in a crowd and listen to, Meghan the Stallion?
Listening to our speakers, which I think, Dave, if you don't already have one, you must have an article there about dining and cannibalism or something there, but I hope we're going to see that. And Andrew, good point.
Epicurean Journal.
So we've been looking through the Seinfeldian political lens, and through Dave, we looked through the seismologist tectonic lens. And it's interesting, as I hear you speak, that we're looking through a cult of personality versus policies. So many people are voting based on just one person. It's like voting for your sorority leader or for valedictorian in high school, and not looking at the 60,000 people and the policies that are behind them. Dick Cheney is out on stage supporting Kamala Harris. I mean, that is just like shocking. When everyone thinks of Dick Cheney, that's not a good look. And so when Dave talked about some of the horrendous examples of extremism, and then we see some crazy stuff at this weekend at Bernie's election. Many times they're trotting out people to sort of run interference for them because their personalities are so sad sack, I guess. I felt bad for Joe Biden's cognitive decline from aging as I would from anyone. I think I felt worse for Kamala Harris when she was on Anderson Cooper trying to not say that she supported the wall that he pointed out she denigrated 50 times. She even laughed. She said, "Oh, you can build a wall. They're just going to jump over it." Ha, 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 ha. And now she's trying to build a wall, and she can't say she built the wall. What is more cringeworthy than Robert De Niro coming out? And I think what it's showing people is that these are really good actors, but very bad thinkers. It's not really resonating with people who are looking past the policies. In fact, it looks just a little bit unhinged, I think. And so when you have to resort to this conundrum or this idea that you have to bring, the most famous people out for you in the battle of the stars, I'm reminded of a quote by Asimov, who said, everybody's got an opinion, but not everybody's opinions are equal. Why are we hearing from Bruce Springsteen? So, I mean, people are just laughing at this because ultimately more and more Americans, because, it's the economy, stupid. They're struggling, not just with housing, with how to afford food, with how to buy a house, with how to get out of their grandmother's basement. And so, trotting out George Clooney, the millionaires, when Hollywood is in disgraceful disarray and the whole industry is painted with the escapades of P. Diddy and who was on Epstein's plane, these are not maybe the people that are really resonating with Americans anymore. Meanwhile, Bobby Kennedy is out there speaking of a personality, and with Joe Rogan and Musk. Musk is quite a personality. Look at the character and the content of what they're saying and doing compared to the usual suspects of, trotting out the Hollywood parade. And I just think it's kind of a sign of desperation. And it does add to the sort of macabre appearance of it all. But ultimately, I think it's not really, it's not very effective at helping people make decisions when they're looking at policies.
Graham, would you agree with Clara on that? Or, I mean, here's another thing, and I think Graham will know better how to answer this question. But the Madison Square Garden was a huge deal in the middle of New York, and then there was the fallout. So, will that successful rally
literally a floating island
just go by the wayside for the for the drama afterward, Graham?
Puerto Rico.
I think he did the Madison Square Garden thing for two reasons. Number one, just to poke the Democrats kind of in the eye, kind of flip them the bird, if you like, saying, hey, I can go into deep blue New York and even deeper blue New York City and hold a massive rally, and Kamala Harris, if she tried to do that in, say, the deep
Indiana,
South,
anywhere,
it just wouldn't work. There's another reason why Trump did things like going to New Jersey and going to California, is that he is working on, and I'm not the first person from Liberty Nation to point this out, so I have to give credit to our senior political analyst, Tim Donner, because he's already pointed this out, that Trump is already working on helping the down ballot races. He is already working on helping Republicans try to win seats in the Senate and try to win House seats. And so he's going into blue areas where Republicans are running, to try to flip some seats from Democrat to Republican. And the fact that he's doing that at this stage in the election, when, it's a week to go, you'd think that both candidates would be out there, beating the streets, practically knocking on people's doors themselves all over the country, and especially in their strongholds, maybe, just to make sure that their own strongholds don't slip away, whether it's Trump or whether it's Kamala. The Trump campaign is not doing that. The Trump campaign is already, it's almost like he has stopped campaigning for president already, and he is now campaigning so that should he win, he has a Congress that he can use to get stuff done. Because the last thing he needs now, from his point of view, just look at the last 4 years he was in the White House. The last thing he needs is to be president and have a Democratic-controlled Congress. Because
right.
You know what they're going to do? They're going to do the same as last time. They're going to impeach him every time he yawns, which I don't think I've ever seen him yawn, actually, which is weird. But, they're going to impeach him, every time he opens his mouth. At this point, there is no real cohesive Harris campaign anymore. It's dissolved into
they keep trying new stuff.
Into abject hysteria. I mean, they're just throwing everything against the wall now to see what sticks. And it's sort of amusing to watch, really.
I have a question before we go. Who the heck is Meghan the Stallion? Is that a horse? The Kentucky Derby? What is that?
I believe she's a singer. I would
She's a rap artist. Look her up.
I suspect rap or hip hop.
Well, Sarah listens to
music. I've heard her name, and I believe I've even heard some of her music. And although it's not my kind of music, she does appear to have a pretty good voice. I'd say that.
She has a great voice. She has a huge following, and I will let Andrew Google her and listen to her lyrics.
I would say one thing about that joke, the floating island of garbage thing. There's a couple of things to bear in mind about that real quick, and that is, number one, that would have been kind of a funny joke to do, a comedy show or in a comedy club, but to do that on the stage at a political rally, no matter whose political rally it was very poor judgment on the part of on the part of Mr. Tony Hinchcliffe, I believe his name is. The joke itself, I didn't think was that offensive at all, because he clearly wasn't talking about the people of Puerto Rico. He was clearly talking about the fact that Puerto Rico has a chronic garbage problem, which has been well reported on by the US media in the past, by the way. It's not the same as Joe Biden literally referring to millions of Americans as garbage, which is exactly what he did.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
And the other thing I say is I don't think we'll have any bearing whatsoever. That particular joke is going to have no bearing whatsoever on the election. And here's why. The Democrats look upon every single racial group, every single ethnic group as homogenous, as a kind of a monolith. And, Latinos or Hispanics, if you want to call them that, they are the same as Asians. It's like kind of saying that all Asians stick together. They don't like, the Japanese and the Koreans do not get along. The Chinese and the Japanese don't get along, and it's the same with Hispanics. A Cuban or a Venezuelan or a Nicaraguan is not going to be in the least bit bothered that some American comedian who hardly anyone's ever heard of referred to Puerto Rico as a floating island of garbage. They don't care.
All right. Well, hey, as the Grateful Dead once sang, what a long, straight strip it has been. We'll be back with live coverage on Election Day, so stay tuned for that big event. Thanks, panel. Well, that's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Check out our other C5 shows and segments on your favorite video platform, YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble. We're on them all as well. Liberty Nation has its own Roku channel where you can see all of our TV productions. Now, Liberty Nation does not endorse candidates, campaigns, or legislation, and this presentation is no endorsement. I'm your host, Sarah Cowgill. Thanks for joining us today, and tune in for our live election coverage on the big day. Your coverage choice for free thinking, free speech, libertynation.com.